Hello, welcome back to Matt's Investing Corner. I know as a beginner to start to invest, the amount of information that can be quite overwhelming. And therefore I make this episode to show you 5 different sources that I believe as a starting investor you should know. But before we go into these 5 valuable sources of information, I need your help. I know I am a starter, I'm a beginner into creating this YouTube video. I am every week exploring how to do editing, how to do scripting, how to position in the camera, what kind of microphone to use. Any questions, any comments that you can come up, I would be very happy to reply to you on that. Also, of course, if you like the video, this helps the video tremendously. Let's not further wait any longer, let's go into these sources. So the last couple of weeks have been quite hectic, especially the American markets and all the European stock markets have been quite influenced by a number of factors. There's a lot of fear lately in the market, and one of the things that I would like to show you is that there is a particular source of information that is called the market sentiment, whereby you can see the fear and greed index. This is something I want to talk you through. Another thing is the market calendar. What kind of indicators are coming out? What kind of earnings? What kind of revenue dividend is coming out? This is information that is relevant for you if you want to invest in particular companies. Where are you able to find that? Third items is the earnings for companies. They present every quarter, every year their earnings, and this is something very relevant as an investor for you to keep an eye on. Another thing is, of course, price movements, pre-market, after-market. Where do you get this information? I'm going to tell you in point number 4. And the 5th point is where to trade the most traded stocks. Maybe you're not so familiar with the market and you just want to see which stocks and ETFs are mostly traded. And this is something I'm going to explain to you next. The first source is the Fear and Greed Index. And this is an index that is being posted by the CNN business website. I will put all the links in the description down, so you will be able to open it and see it in your own time. What you can see in the Fear and Greed Index is basically the sentiment of the market. How are all the traders, all the investors thinking? What direction is it going? What you can see now is that there's an extreme fear in the market. The markets have been going down in the last 2, 3, 4 weeks, and it looks like a big correction. This is, of course, something that can be quite worrisome if you have quite some investments outstanding and you haven't set any limits. And this is something that obviously is causing quite some fear in the market if the market keeps on going down due to bad news or negative news that does not help the economies, etc. So what you can see here that the Fear and Greed Index is split out in 5 different categories: extreme fear, fear, neutral, greed, and extreme greed. Obviously, if the market is going well, and the stock markets have been going up and up and up, then obviously you will see that pointing the other direction. But lately it's on 18 out of 100. And if you look at what was the previous close it was on 24. It even dropped today to 18. A week ago it was on 22, was also still on extreme fear. But a month ago it was just on fear. And 1 year ago it was the opposite. It was an extreme greed sentiment. In this website, you can just find what is the sentiment of the market. How is this calculated? Well, there are a number of categories, and you can see that below by the market momentum, the stock price strength, the stock price breadth, the put and call options ratio, the market volatility, the safe haven demand, junk bond demand. You'll be able to see basically the explanation of how each of these factors is calculated. And this is giving you a very good indication of, okay, where does the market stand and what can I expect in the next coming weeks or so is something that obviously it will not tell, but it will tell you where the market is, what kind of fear or greed is there. and I believe that's quite useful to keep an eye on. The next source that I would like to explain to you is the market calendar, and therefore I would like to refer to you to a website which is called TradingView, tradingview.com. I will put the link down in the comments. It's a website that is accessible, also just for free. You have to just register yourself and you do not have any further cost. But there will be a wealth of information for you there available that you can open. Let me move the bar in. So here I have a live version of TradingView. I have my own account here. I don't even pay anything. I have a free version here. But here you can see, for instance, the calendar. And that's something that is super interesting for you to keep track on which indicators are coming out on today, tomorrow, or the following day, and you can also see that it's split by region and by date. You can see when is it coming out, what is the forecast, etc. Very relevant, especially when the publication season is of earnings or revenue, or when dividend needs to be announced. These kind of things are really interesting to keep an eye on. As also, of course, the economic indicators that will be announced in the different countries. Mainly the US is one of the bigger influencers, but you can find that here in the calendar. Another thing that I really like with the TradingView is if you go to products and you go to heat map of stocks. TradingView has a very nice visual of the S&P 500, or if you want to look at the European stocks, you go to the Euro Stoxx 600 and you'll see what the market is doing. Not only you have this market sentiment of CNN, but obviously having this heat map, you can see what the market is doing. Now I can imagine that you might have a question in terms of, okay, earnings, but when is this happening? When are these earnings being published and shared? Well, this is something that you can easily find by going to the company website and keeping track of the announcements when the earnings are reported. But another thing is for you to keep a track on is a website called Earnings Whispers or Earnings Hub. And these sites I will show you. The first one is Earnings Hub, which is a website, earningshub.com, where you can just sign in. You can create your own login, and it's free of charge. So they have a free membership, and you can get already quite some basic valuable information from them. For instance, here I can see in this week which big companies are announcing, and you can set the popular the filters of what kind of companies you want to see in this list. But here I can see which companies are before opening or after closing reporting numbers, and this is something that quite is relevant. So Earnings Hub is a very good one to see what is coming up in the upcoming week, in the following week, which companies are announcing their numbers, and this is of course every quarter. And there's a lot of other information that you can get for free from Earnings Hub, but it's quite relevant to see, okay, which companies are announcing their numbers this week or following week, etc. Another website that I can highly recommend is basically called Earnings Whispers. This one is not for free accessible. They do, however, on X, the former Twitter, they basically publish every week a screenshot of the main companies of their calendar that are reporting their numbers, and that's quite nicely done. It's called Earnings Whisper, just so you can also follow them on Twitter, and you can see which companies are being announcing their numbers. But normally, if you are a well-informed investor, you can also subscribe as an investor with the company, and then you will be informed when earnings are coming. But if you don't do that for every company that you're tracking, then these websites, Earnings Whisper and Earnings Hub, are pretty good. The third source that I want to tell you is the company earnings. And this is something that obviously companies present their quarterly, every quarter, especially listed companies. They will present their earnings every quarter, and there's a year report. In these reports, there's a lot of information shared about the strategy that they're doing, the earnings, the costs that they have, the debt that they have. These are very relevant information for you as an investor. And I'll be talking you through some examples of European stocks like Louis Vuitton, Moet, or Nestle, or Shell, ASML, or Rheinmetall. So I'll be opening the site. So this is the website of Louis Vuitton Moet. If you go to the home of them, but you want to look for the section of investors. So if you go to investors, and you will look for the publications, and there you will see basically the reports, potentially quarterly reports or the year reports that you'll be looking for. And this is something that obviously is a bit of looking for every website because it's not always in the same format. Here I'm in the Nestle, I go to investors, and then you go to annual report. Then you want to go to facts and figures, and this is where you can find all the numbers. So every website is a bit of looking and searching. Okay, I want to go to the annual report, and then you want to download the report. And then you can have a look and go through the numbers. And this is something I believe very relevant as an investor, that you understand the company, you understand how their growth has been going, how their debt is, and how their strategy is in the upcoming months. Shell is another example. Here you go to the home website of Shell, you go to investors. What are you looking for? Well, results and reporting. I want to go to the latest quarterly report so that I can find the presentation or the Excel spreadsheet with numbers, or just the quarterly press release. This is something that is super relevant and interesting as an investor to go through and understand what is the status of that company you're investing. Another example, ASML. If I go to investors and I want to see the annual report, here you get immediately some key figures. You can download the interim report. There's the annual report. And this is super relevant, again, to go through and understand where the company is. Last example, Rheinmetall. Rheinmetall is a defense company, highly relevant lately. You go to investor relations, you go to Kernzahlen, Jahreszahlen, or quarterly numbers. And there you get all the numbers of how the company is performing, and you can download the numbers there. So going back, quarterly and yearly earnings, very relevant. Just go to the website, find the investor section, and there you can find normally the presentations and all the figures that you want to have a look at. So the fourth item on my list is basically price movements of the company that you want to invest in, or that you have already invested in. You want to see how that is moving over the day, over the weeks, over the months, and this is something that also potentially that you want to see before the market opened. It's called the pre-market or the aftermarket, to see how the company is being further traded. And this is something that is very interesting to follow. In my case, I'm using the Giro, and in that you can basically create a favorites tab. And let me open just the window itself. Here you can see the live data that I'm getting, and you can create in your tabs favorites. You can add any new company, any company that you want to follow. You can create an unlimited list, and as you can see, it's a red day, and the percentages are quite heavy. You see substantial decreases of 6.5% for BMW, 5%. Apple is not moving much down, but there are some, Amazon 2% down. So you can start looking at companies. You can see that by any time horizon that you want to see. You can see the chart. There's even an interactive graph that you want to see. So you get a lot of information about the company, how the company is evolving in terms of the price over time. You have some additional information that you can find here as well, the company information, the financials, key figures, a lot of information that you can get there. But what is most interesting is to see how that is evolving. Obviously, you can also on your phone, there's a very good app to track your prices in case you have a minute and you want to just quickly see the prices. Then this is something you can quickly just grab your phone, have a glimpse, how is the stock market moving. Another thing is something that you can have a look at is Yahoo Finance. It's a very good website as well, whereby you can track basically any stock. You can create your own list of companies. In this case, I want to see ASML. And what you can see here, what is nice of Yahoo Finance is you don't see it currently, but I will make a separate clip whereby you can see in the aftermarket or in the pre-market how the stock is being traded, and Yahoo Finance is giving that information. So what that basically shows you is that when the bell rings, when the market goes open, that's the 9 till 4:30, I believe, and that's the US time. But obviously, when the market closes, does not mean that there's no longer traded. There's an aftermarket and a pre-market that they're still trading. And this is quite interesting to see, especially before the market opens, where is your company value moving towards. And that's something I believe is very valuable. So the fifth item on my list is basically for you as an investor to see what is mostly traded. What is the market favorite share, basically, or stock to trade, or favorite ETF. And I think that's something very relevant to keep an eye on. If I open my Giro and I go to market, then you can see, if you go here, to the top 10 list of the most held ETFs, most traded in the weekly, most traded on daily basis. So if I look at the most traded ETFs, I get immediately an overview which ETFs via the Giro are mostly traded. And there you can see basically, okay, which ones are by the masses mostly bought and sold. If I go to the mostly traded shares, I can see, for instance, that ASML is a very popular share. Just Eat, Wolters Kluwer. Yeah, you can see the list here. Another item that is interesting to keep track of is the Euronext. So if you go to euronext.com and you start looking at what is the most active traded. So Euronext is an exchange, and there are a number of indices on there, as you can see. And which shares, companies are mostly traded. If you go on this one, you can see by turnover and volume what the mostly traded companies are. UniCredit, Leonardo, ASML, they are really one of the mostly traded lately. So as a beginner investor, I know all too well that there is so much information available and can be overwhelming, and you don't want to invest too much time on it. So I believe these 5 sources of information that I've shared with you, I hope this was very useful, and I'm looking forward to see you on the next video. Bye-bye.